BC ਲਿਬਰਲ ਆਗੂ ਕੇਵਨ ਫਾਲਕਨ ਨਾਲ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਆਫ BC ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਹੋਈ। ਇਸ ਮੌਕੇ ਫਾਲਕਨ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜੌਨ ਹੋਰਗਨ ਅਤੇ NDP ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਅਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਰੋਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਦੀਆਂ ਤਰਜੀਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਰਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸਫਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਰਹਿਣ ਸਹਿਣ ਦੀ ਲਾਗਤ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਵਧਦੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਰਾਏ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕਰਿਆਨੇ ਤੱਕ, ਗੈਸ ਤੱਕ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। NDP ਕੋਲ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਵੱਧਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਗਤਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੂਝ ਰਹੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਯੋਜਨਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਅਹਿਮ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ। ਕੇਵਨ ਫਾਲਕਨ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਰੀ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਥਾਨਕ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਫੋਰਸ ਦੀ ਸਥਾਪਨਾ ਲਈ ਹਰ ਸੰਭਵ ਕਦਮ ਚੁੱਕਣਗੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ BC ਲਿਬਰਲ ਦੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਆਗੂ ਐਂਡਰਿਊ ਵਿਲਕਿਨਸਨ ਨੇ ਪਿਛਲੀਆਂ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਸਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਅਣਗੌਲਿਆ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਿਸ ਦਾ ਨਤੀਜਾ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਭੁਗਤਣਾ ਪਿਆ ਅਤੇ ਸੂਬੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਘੱਟ ਸੀਟਾਂ ਜਿੱਤ ਸਕੀ। ਫਾਲਕਨ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਵੋਟਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਫਤਵੇ ਦਾ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਇਸ ਲਈ ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਹੀ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੇਟਿੰਗ, ਡਾਕਟਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਾਰਡ, ਪਟੋਲੋ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ, ਮੇਸੀ ਟਨਲ, ICBC, ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਰਨਾਰਥੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਤੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਸਵਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤੇ। ਤਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ BC ਲਿਬਰਲ ਆਗੂ ਕੇਵਨ ਫਾਲਕਨ ਨੂੰ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਕਿਲਚੇਨਾ ਤੋਂ ਅਧਿਕਾਰਿਕ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ BC ਲਿਬਰਲ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰ ਵਜੋਂ ਨਾਮਜ਼ਦ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਫਾਲਕਨ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਜੌਨ ਹੋਰਗਨ ਨੂੰ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਜਲਦੀ ਹੋ ਸਕੇ ਉਪਚੋਣ ਬੁਲਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਕਿਹਾ। ਇਹ ਉਪਚੋਣ ਸਾਬਕਾ BC ਲਿਬਰਲ ਵਿਧਾਇਕ ਐਂਡਰਿਊ ਵਿਲਕਿਨਸਨ ਦੀ ਥਾਂ ਲੈਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਹੈ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਿਧਾਨ ਸਭਾ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੀਟ ਤੋਂ ਅਸਤੀਫਾ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸੀ। NDP ਸਰਕਾਰ ਕੋਲ ਉਪਚੋਣ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ 6 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਂ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਆਫ BC ਦੀ ਹੋਈ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਫਾਲਕਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਦੇਖੋ ਇਹ ਖਾਸ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ।
What are the things that I see that are really important? I think the big issue of affordability is one of the big pressing issues in this province. Now, we've gone through 2 years of COVID. Most of it's behind us, thank goodness. But in that 2 years, a lot of things have been happening that people aren't paying attention to because they've been mostly concerned about COVID. And that's been of great benefit to the government, because when you're in government, if you only have to talk about one issue for 2 years, that's a very good deal. Trust me on this one. But as COVID starts to go away, now people are starting to think, wait a minute, how come we are paying the highest gasoline prices in North America? And we were paying the highest gas prices in North America before the situation in Ukraine, and we still are paying the highest gas prices in North America. Those are important questions that people have. They're asking themselves, why have we got the most expensive housing ever in the history of British Columbia? And remember, this was a government that when they got elected, they said, we're going to fix the housing problem. We know what the problem is. It's developers and it's foreigners buying up real estate. So we're going to add all these new taxes, which they did, and they said that's going to fix housing. So here we are, almost 5 years later, and housing is not fixed. In fact, it's the worst it's ever been. Okay, so the reason I point these things out is because I think results are important. Not what politicians say, because politicians always say things. Oh yeah, we'll fix this, we'll fix that, don't worry, we're going to spend all this money here, all this money there. What should be important is results. So when the government says they're going to build a second hospital in Surrey, I think we have to ask ourselves, okay, where is the hospital? How come in year 5, they're suddenly, for the first time, saying, well, we put $2 million into the budget for the hospital, for planning, okay? I say, I've built hospitals, okay? I did the $500 million expansion of the Surrey Memorial Hospital. I can tell you $2 million, they spill more coffee in a year than $2 million in the Fraser Health Authority. I can assure you they spend more on serving coffee to their employees. $2 million is nothing, and it's not a hospital, just so everyone here understands. A hospital is Surrey Memorial, which you have full service hospital, or the Peace Arch Hospital. This is actually an urgent and primary care center they're talking about building. 168 beds, this is what they're proposing, 5 OR rooms, and no maternity, even though we're the youngest, fastest growing population in the province, and it will have some cancer treatments, etc. But, you know, I'm telling you folks, to wait 5 years and only then say we're going to spend $2 million to plan, do some planning work for a hospital is not acceptable to me. That, to me, sounds like they're just delaying things down the road. The other thing I think is important is investing for the future. The reason we build a second hospital is because we need one. This is the fastest growing part of the province. Surrey is going to be bigger than Vancouver within 10 years. And we need to have the facilities and infrastructure to meet the future demand. The reason why I'm coming back into politics is for my children. They're 9 and 12-year-old girls, and I'm very proud of my girls. But it's for that generation, not them specifically, but that next generation, okay? So that's not working. When they talk about fixing mental health and addiction problems, okay, we've got the worst situation today than we've ever seen. The streets are less safe. We've got incidents of crime and criminal activity are going up. People are feeling more nervous in their own communities. We haven't been dealing with these programs. So this is why we are, as an opposition, our job is to hold government to account and to say you are not meeting any of the commitments that you said you would do. And talk is cheap. Actions are important. And we need to see results.
Politicians always make promises,
Yes.
right? If you become a next premier, how you will solve the gang violence issue and the overdose? Because it's increasing every
Yes,
day.
yes.
It's not like I say every minute.
Yes, yes.
And the both things are increasing. If you become, and I want to like time limit, like within 2 years, 1 year.
Yeah, no, good for you. And I appreciate that question. The question is how do we deal with gang violence and how do we deal with the overdose crisis? Now, this is very important. I've spent the last better part of 10 years on the board of the Street to Home Foundation. It's a charity that works to help homelessness in Vancouver, but not just building new homes for them, which we've done. We've raised $30 million from the private sector and helped build over 3,000 homes for the homeless. But more important than that even, we've studied very hard to understand who are these people and how did they end up homeless? And what things can we do to help solve them? And not surprising to many of you, mental health and addictions are a big part of the problem. So how will we do things differently? Today, right now in British Columbia, we have the highest rate of overdose deaths in the history of British Columbia. Last year, those numbers were also the highest in the history of British Columbia. In fact, for the last 5 years,
There is not a big question about money laundering.
yes.
What was the outcome of that inquiry?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. So this is casino money laundering. There's an inquiry going on by Judge Collin. I understand that the report is due at the end of May or in June this year. And so we will see. The judge, and this, I tell you this, I wasn't in government when this problem blew up. But I'm very interested in seeing the results of this commission. And I want you to know this, that if it points out that while we were in government, we were in any way responsible, I will absolutely apologize on behalf of our party and whatever we did not do well.
They're blaming.
Of course, they're blaming us, yes. But here's the thing you should know about that. David Eby, made a big deal and said, oh, it's all the BC Liberals. Well, we'll see. But I tell you, when that report comes out, if that's not the case, then I'm going to be asking him some pretty hard questions too. Because I do think honesty is important in government too. It's very easy to blame people, but hopefully you're blaming it based on facts, not on misinformation. So we will see. But thank you.
Vishpal Singh. The NDP government increased the minimum wage. Would you agree with that one?
I do. The reason I agree with the increase in minimum wage is because it's now predictable. So it's based on whatever inflation increase is. So I think that most businesses just want predictability. And so I think that predictability is important. But I'll tell you.
Today's situation, as we know, worldwide, gas prices are up. Alberta, they lifted the taxes,
Yes.
but not in BC.
Yes.
Protesters, they are going to go to the Victoria in some days.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
My take is that they have a legitimate complaint. You just saw on Monday a bunch of truckers, many from the community, are very, very upset because their diesel prices have gone up so dramatically. And it's hard for them. They have to pay for that cost. They can't just, it's hard to pass that cost along. Now, eventually, if the people that they're, picking up and shipping goods for allow them to, be reimbursed for that, that would be good. But sometimes that takes a long time for that to happen. So they're really feeling the pinch. But so is the average mother in Surrey with a minivan trying to fill up that minivan. That's over $100 now. If you drive a Ford F-250, it's over $200 to fill up that truck. And a lot of people, this is what bothers me about the NDP, is they say, the Premier said, take a bus then. Well, a lot of people drive their trucks around, that's their work. you know, they're in the construction, or they're electricians, or they're plumbers, whatever. They have to use their vehicle for work. They don't just get to get on a bus. It's hard for a mom with 3 kids to go shopping and take a bus and carry groceries and try and manage all her children and everything. It's not realistic. So here's what I've said to the NDP. Number one, when we brought in the carbon tax in 2008, it was a revenue neutral carbon tax, which meant that by law, every penny that you paid in carbon tax, we had to return it to you in the form of lower personal income taxes and lower business taxes. And the idea was that it was a tax shift, so that you're not taking money from people and just bringing it into government. And that's why, even though the NDP government fought an election against us on that, axe the tax was their slogan, we won a majority, because I believe the public knew that that was the right thing to do for the environment. But the problem is, when the NDP got elected, they changed the legislation and said it's no longer revenue neutral. We're taking all of that money into government now, and we'll spend it how we see fit. Now that's a problem, because right now they are collecting billions of dollars in carbon taxes that they should be returning to all of you. They haven't been. They're taking it all into government.
Surrey residents don't expect that from BC Liberal Party.
Yeah.
The candidate should be someone who is knows Surrey
Yes.
and knows the issues of Surrey. And I saw in the debates, and they were not even asking questions about. They don't know anything about Surrey.
Yeah. Well, I you know, yes, that's true. What I said from the beginning when I announced that I was going to be a leadership candidate, I said this party has to be completely re-energized, rebuilt, rebooted, renamed maybe. But the reason and it's got to be more diverse. We have to have a membership and candidates that reflect our communities. And I also said that I am going to personally lead that effort of recruiting good, diverse, smart candidates to run with us. And I also said that I want to make sure those candidates get nominated just well before the election, because I don't want them nominated in the 30 days before an election where people go, who's this person, right? You know, so I do want to make sure that that happens. And look, I've already made changes. I've been leader of this party for 1 month. I've already made significant changes at our political party. You know, Harbir Grewal is now working there. Simrath Grewal is now the number 2 person at that party. And I did that because I wanted to move quickly to say change is happening now. I don't like waiting around. I move very, very quickly. And I promise you this, judge me on what I do. I can't say what other people have done, but judge me on what I do. And what you will see is that I will do exactly what I said I was going to do.
Whenever they are on the stage, they always talk.
Yeah.
Just like you are explaining every single thing.
Yes.
Thoughts and implementation, 2 different things.
Yes, yes.
I remember when Jagrut Brar was MLA.
Yeah.
He's still MLA, he's in the government.
Yeah.
He went to downtown East Side, spent few nights
Yeah.
with those homeless people.
Yes, I remember that.
And he's in power for 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no change. I remember one time when I was in downtown, and one friend of mine was doing, that free food at East and Main.
Yes.
Guru Nanak Free Kitchen.
Yeah.
They serve the food.
Which is fantastic.
And I was
Yeah.
helping them out.
Yes.
One of the guy came from the Europe, he has a turban.
Yeah.
And when he saw my turban, he stopped by. He said, Mr. Singh, I want to talk to you. I said, yeah. Are you from here? Yes. Is it Vancouver? I said, yes, it is Vancouver. So it's very hard, whatever people are thinking when they are doing research, what is the beautiful city in the world, that's Vancouver is one of them. But when somebody goes to downtown, Hastings and Maine, one of the worst city around the country, I think that's Vancouver.
Yeah.
Are you going to do anything to improve that situation?
Yes.
Because that area looks like Taliban's Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever they want, they
Yeah.
can stop anywhere. They can steal anybody's purse. They are selling on the street. Government is not doing anything. If you are coming into the power, are you going to clean those streets and putting those needy people for the proper place?
Yes. Yes to all of that. And that's why I mentioned that, I spent the better part of the last decade on the board of the Street to Home Foundation. I've spent time in the downtown east side. I've been through those buildings, the low barrier shelters that some of these people stay in. I've talked to the addicts firsthand, and not just there, by the way, in Nanaimo, in Prince George. This is every community. Kamloops, it's getting worse. It is getting worse every week. And the problem is, here's the problem. The government says all the right things. If you listen to them, it sounds good. It's that we're going to spend, $100 million more on this or 10 million more on that. But the problem is, what they're doing is more of the same thing. And just by doing more of the same thing won't get you different results. You have to do things differently if you want to get different results. So that's why I said we have to take literally hundreds of people that are very mentally ill off of the streets and into 24/7 care. We used to call it Essendale and Riverview, okay? I'm not talking about that model, but I'm talking about, like, if you go to Riverview Lands, you'll see a new building that opened up under the NDP but started by the BC Liberals. I think they call it the Red Leaf or the Red Fern building. It's an Indigenous name. But it's only got 30 beds. We need 300.
Yeah, more
Right?
than that.
Yeah, more than that, if we're going to start to fix this problem. And then we need to help those that are addicted to drugs get off of drugs. Not just give them safe drugs, but get off of drugs. And this is something I feel very strongly about. The government is going in the wrong direction, and they're not going to get any different results.